regardless of how this one ends up, I am almost positive that it will be better than the 2003 movie that it's based off of. Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another Sunday Fun Day. And for today, we will be returning to the long-awaited segment, Cinema Showdown. Yes, finally, the first Cinema Showdown in ages. You guys have been begging and begging for it to come back, and finally it is coming back, but this one is going to be a Halloween special edition. And with that being said, today we are going to be pitting two horror icons against one another. It is going to be the long-awaited debate of Freddy versus Jason. There is a 2003 movie based off of that, but if you did see that movie, then you know that that ended in a stalemate. As you know, Jason walks out of the water, holding Freddy's head, presumably dead, until the camera zooms in and Frederick Charles Krueger winks at the camera, showing that Freddy is indeed alive. My goal today is to determine who would be the true and final victor. So for the first round, we are going to be discussing these characters' origin. Jason was just a young boy with a disease called hydrocephalus, which caused him mental issues and to have a deformed head, much larger than that of the average human head. He was raised by his mother as his father left, and she did everything for him. Homeschooled him, taught him how to do this, that, everything, the entire walks of life. But with that being done, the only thing that Jason knows is his mother and to do what she says. So when the day finally comes that Pamela has to go to work at Camp Crystal Lake, where she is a cook, and she cannot find a sitter for Jason, she must take him along with her. When he arrives there, the other children bully him for his look, eventually taking him out to the lake and pushing him in where he drowns. Jason ultimately drowns because the camp counselors or lifeguards or whoever was supposed to be there weren't there because they were off in the woods, cabin somewhere doing the dirty. So Pamela ultimately blames them and goes on the murder spree that we see in the first Friday the 13th. Pamela dies at the end of the original Friday the 13th. Jason stumbles upon her head and keeps it for himself like all the good boys would and makes a little shrine out of it. And then he goes to exact revenge on any teens that come near his territory. Now for Freddy Krueger. Fair warning for Freddy's intro. It is quite gruesome and very graphic. I will be cutting out most of the details. So Freddy's mother was a nun who worked in an insane asylum. And while she is there, she ends up being raped and therefore becoming pregnant with Freddy. After she has him, Freddy is placed into the foster care of an alcoholic father. He goes to school and he is actually bullied for the fact that his mother is raped. And eventually, as he gets older and realizes that, hey, I don't have to live like this anymore with his stepfather beating on him all the time, he eventually takes a razor and kills his stepfather. Though he is never caught for that, and he goes on to live a mostly normal life. He eventually gets married and has a daughter and works at a local power plant. He ends up exacting revenge on those who bullied him growing up, and by doing so, he kidnaps their children and, uses his little metal clawed glove there to, torture and mutilate children. Around 20 of them. Yeah, really messed up. Eventually he is caught though, but he gets off on a technicality, something like someone crossed the T's and dotted the I's in the wrong place, signed somewhere they weren't supposed to and whatnot, and Freddy gets off on a technicality completely scot-free. But the local parents track him down, trap him in the boiler room of his local power plant, cover the thing in gasoline, burn it to the ground, Freddy dies, and then becomes a dream demon. So although both of those are very extensive and mostly interesting, I think Freddy has a much more in-depth backstory. Jason just has his disorder and mommy issues, he drowns, but for the most part it is a very basic backstory, whereas Freddy, it goes much more in-depth. Now like I said, it's much more graphic and gruesome, detailed one. He's also known as the Springwood Slasher, so on and so forth. He has his metal clawed glove, and he just has a much more interesting and detailed origin story. So round one is going to be going to Freddy. Round two is going to be the look of the character. Now, Freddy is very, very recognizable. He is completely burnt and covered in just wrinkles and gross pussy things, as well as he has his brown fedora, his red and green striped sweater, and his unforgettable metal clawed glove. He is very recognizable, but I feel he is almost kind of faded in today's world. And now that takes me to Jason's look. He'll wear pretty much whatever he was in. He wears like coveralls, he wears just these random jackets, he has flannel on this, that, the other thing, but that's not the look that I'm actually referring to. The thing that mainly makes Jason look like Jason is of course the hockey mask and typically the machete. The two most recognizable things in Jason's wardrobe, although Freddy has much more to him in his costume with the fedora, the sweater, the glove, and just the fact that he is so burnt and disgusting looking. But what really makes me realize it is that anybody can be Jason. I even went as Jason as a little kid. I hadn't watched any of these movies, of course, but it's just so easy to be Jason. I feel like his look is so much more recognizable. People cannot see these old-time hockey masks without thinking of Jason, or a machete without thinking of Jason. It takes a lot to recognize a Nightmare on Elm Street, so that just shows me how easily recognizable Jason is solely based off the mask versus Freddy, with sometimes even the full look there in the name. People today really just don't recognize him sometimes. Therefore, I'm going to have to give round 2 to Jason Voorhees. And now for round 3, it is going to be the weapon of choice. Jason, although he uses a multitude of weapons, including very frequently his bare hands, people most recognize Jason with the machete in his hand. Now, the machete is, of course, just a basic machete, but he knows how to use it. Trust me, he will slash, he will hack, he will stab, he will do whatever he can to kill people. Now we move over to Freddy, who obviously has a much more recognizable weapon of choice, and that is going to be his 4 metal clawed glove. You see that glove, you know who it is. Freddy Krueger. It is literally, I think even at some points, like just melded to his hand. Like it is part of Freddy's hand. It is a part of the character. Although Jason is most recognized to have the machete, if you go through the Friday movies, he really doesn't use a machete all that often. He will use pretty much whatever is near. He will use literally anything from just the sleeping bag that you're in, to a spear, to a corkscrew, for God's sakes.
Ted! Hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
To use just about everything, and although the machete is what he's most recognized for having, Freddy is just known to go with the glove. He wears the glove in every movie. That's the main thing that he uses to kill people, is always the glove. Therefore, I'm going to have to give the weapon of choice round to Freddy Krueger. Now on to round 4, which is going to be creativity in the kills. Now this round for me was super hard to pin down, because both of these guys are ridiculously creative with their kills. As I already said, Jason uses whatever is near him, just whatever is around, but Freddy also has that dynamic of being able to kill people in dreams, so he can make up these ridiculous scenarios, and they also come out looking really crazy and gruesome on the other side in reality, because people die in their dreams, they die in real life. So for Freddy, he has a bunch of creative freedom because he controls the dream world. Some of my most favorite kills in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are the one when the comic book, when he just slashes up the dude in paper. It just looks really cool, and to me, even though it's not a super gruesome kill, it's ridiculously creative. He pulled Buddy into a comic book, and then he just completely takes it over as a super villain and just chops him up and ends up coming out really cool. Next, another one that is a personal favorite of mine is the Wanna Suck Face one, in which he kisses a girl and then literally sucks the life out of her until she's basically just this kind of skinned skeleton with nothing in her and just flops to the ground. That one is super crazy to me as well. Of course, you can't go without recognizing pretty much all of the kills in the original are super creative. From the first one when she's just flailing around the room to probably the most iconic one in my mind, in which Johnny Depp sinks right into the bed and then a bunch of blood just bursts straight up. That was spectacular, but my favorite of all time for Freddy kills must be the "Welcome to prime time, bitch." That is awesome. The hands come out of the TV, pull her in, and then of course the saying. Now you go over to Jason, and the thing with Jason is he has more movies than Freddy, and he has a lot more room to breathe. I feel like also with his multitude of weapons, he can get pretty friggin' creative because he's not limited to just kind of certain things like the claws. Now, although a lot of Freddy's can be creative in the sense of the setup, but the actual deaths aren't always that creative. Some of my favorite deaths from the Friday movies are, of course, the iconic Kevin Bacon death, in which the spear, or whatever it is, the poker, comes out through his throat with blood squirting out. That one is spectacular. The head squeeze one, even though it's obviously super fake, I mean, he just pushes his head, and by the time that the guy actually dies, you can see it's a fake head, and you can literally see the string on the eyeball pop out. It's still super cool to watch, really creative. The sleeping bag one, in which he just picks up the girl. I heard that one was actually supposed to be more gruesome originally, but just picks her up in the sleeping bag, one whack like a baseball bat, she's done for. The head punching off one from part 8, in which Buddy just goes ham on him, bloody knuckles and everything, he says, "Take your best shot." Jason just grabs him, pop, head goes off in one swing. And of course, my personal favorite, and a lot of other people's personal favorites, the liquid nitrogen one from Jason X, of course, with just the dipping the head in, comes out frozen, smash. It's just epic, it is gruesome, and I absolutely love it. Like I said, it's really hard to compare these two because you have the dynamic going for Freddy where he controls the dream world and can set up these insane scenarios. And you have Jason, who's much more bare bones, but he's just able to use whatever's at his disposal. And it's super tough for me to choose, but I think I have to go with Jason for this round. It is so tough to decide, guys, but I think it goes to him, just the sheer fact that he has more movies, more opportunities. So I think I have to give Jason credit where credit is due. Wow, okay, so this has been super productive. We have found ourselves at another stalemate. We really couldn't come to a final conclusion, so what we've worked out is that we're just gonna let these two guys duke it out themselves. So for the fifth and final round in the deciding round, and now since Jason won the last round, we will reveal Jason's first. We will not be counting the original movie, of course, because that's Pamela Voorhees, and we will not be counting the fifth movie as it is a copycat killer. We are counting just strictly Jason kills, and yes, we will be including Jason Goes to Hell, even though it is people that are doing the killing. They are possessed by Jason, so I'm giving the kills to Jason there. Basically rounds off to be roughly 158 to 161-ish kills for Jason himself. The series overall has a little over 200, but just Jason himself lands somewhere between 158 and 161 kills. And now for the grand reveal, drumroll, I'm hitting fake drums. Freddy Krueger, Frederick Charles Krueger, comes in with a whopping 43 kills. Now, Jason can rack up this many kills even in the amount of movies that Freddy has. He still has way more kills. I mean, by Jason's like third or fourth outing, he already has more than Freddy has in all of his movies. Even look at the movie that the two of them are in, Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy's name is first. Freddy has 1 kill in the whole movie. Jason has 19. So I think that's what it really comes down to, guys, is I scored my rounds, but the ultimate killer has to go to Jason. His body count shows it. His movies show it. Jason will be getting the crown for this cinema showdown. So folks, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know down in the comments below. Who would you have given this fight to? And do you agree with my choices per round? And be sure to hit me up on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Links will be in the description and at the end of the video. And as always, be sure to check out my Instagram page on Friday for the Fan Vote Friday. Round 3 just concluded for the Halloween Challenge. Round 4 and the final round will be happening this coming Friday on October 26th, so be there and vote for the ultimate winner of the Halloween Challenge. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. A long-awaited debate. People have battled back and forth, two of the biggest fandoms in the